All right, back at it again. Here a while ago, Lisa and I did a little thing about the 1953 fire in Waits River. Flint Brothers burned. And that's quite a tale, you know, but you can check that out and see that. But in it I mentioned that I might do another little blurb about the new mill that they built after that 1953 fire. It took quite a lot, you know, they really made a mess of that town, but they scrounged around and built a new mill in there. They had a whole mill crew to help, and Elmer Frost had a carpenter crew that was running around building stuff and doing a good job, and Bob Macklem got busy building the store back. Built it, you know, kind of a lot smaller, but more appropriate for the village. Got to doing that, and Flint Brothers got that mill up and running in record time. I mean, I don't know, within a year they were producing again for sure. But they built back a lot smaller mill, and I mean the first one was like 3 or 4 floors, huge thing, had bobbin chutes all over it. But I think when they rebuilt it, they scaled it down to where they were just making rough bobbins mostly to go to Jackman's in East Corinth. They'd make a rough bobbin, ship it down there, and they'd finish it. And they sent it to it was a different market than Bowen Hunter had. Bowen Hunter, of course, had 50, 60 employees and had a huge shop down there, and they made bobbins. But they went to a different market, and I'm not sure what the difference was, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, that mill, they operated that from they burned in 53, so let's say they were up and running by 54 sometime, probably spring or summer of 54. And they had quite a business there. They did a lot. It was scaled down though, but it was a lot more appropriate. But so anyway, it stood there for 8 years, which isn't very long when you think about all the effort that went back into it. But my dad and I were up cleaning our well out. You had to go clean that thing out once in a while. And we were up there, and the well sat right beside the brook, but we were getting water in through it kind of filtered through in from the brook into the well through the gravel. And it came up a wicked thunderstorm. I mean, it was cracking and snapping around there, and Dad decided it'd be about time for us to get the hell out of there because it was lightning and thundering and pouring rain. And so we went down to the house, and I went upstairs to change clothes or get something on that was a little drier. And I did what I always do whenever I look out that window, I checked the mill. Because I didn't trust the goddamn thing, because it burned on me the first time, scared me half to death. I was 5 and I remembered it. And I looked out that window and I said, man, that looks like there's a whisk of smoke coming out of the north end of that mill, right near the roughing room. Well, right where they blocked up the logs to roll them in. I said, man, that looks like smoke. And I watched it a little bit, and then a little puff of smoke came out. I said, oh my God. So I ran downstairs and I said to Dad, the mill's on fire. I'm going to go tell Pearlie. Well, I got on my bike, and it's not very far, so I went and did it in about 38 seconds flat. Pulled into Pearlie Laird's yard. He was a fireman. He lived right by the bridge, right beside the bridge. I'll have to talk about that house sometime. and he was right there, so I wheeled in there in a great puff of dust and banged on the door, and his wife came to the door and says, where's Pearlie? The mill's on fire. Oh no, Pearlie's gone fishing. I said, oh crap. Well, there was another building over the other way, and they were both mill buildings for the help. And there was a family by the name of Flurry that lived over there. And he was a fireman too. He's they had backup, night fireman, day fireman. Anyway, I tore over through the mill yard, jumped a couple loads of logs and landed in her yard, banged on her door, and I says, I can't remember his name. Anyway, I can't remember his first name, but where's your husband, basically? I said, the mill's on fire. Oh my God, he's gone fishing with Pearlie. Oh no, Jesus Christ. But by this time, you look up at that mill and there was no question but that thing was on fire and it was getting onto it. So I pedaled up around and got up on top, and from the time I was very young, my dad always would cut a piece of property off, and we'd cut all the bush and brush out of it, and we'd seed it down and put potatoes in. It wouldn't be a big, might be 50 by 100 plot or something, but by doing that, we gained a little field every once in a while. So we always have a whole bunch of potatoes, and we'd throw them into our two-wheel wagon and that we hauled with the old case tractor, and we'd bring it down out of there. It was up on the hill by the McDuffie place where we had our potatoes, and we'd bring it down, we'd take it over to the mill, and they had a hose over there for washing off logs. So it was kind of a high pressure hose, but boy, it worked good for washing potatoes. And Dad, there was just an on-off button there, and Flint's knew we did it because Dad asked him, you know. So we'd go over there and we'd just wash that whole trailer load of potatoes. It'd take just a minute and it would work good. So I knew exactly where that switch was, and I knew all about that hose. And when I come around the corner to look at that mill, there was that where they rolled the logs in to cut them up on the bolting saw. It was just all aflame. The whole thing was all aflame in there. I said, oh, Jesus. And I grabbed the hose and I tried, and I was putting the water to it, but it was so hot, I couldn't really make a dent in it. I'd get at one spot, calm down a little bit, and the rest of it would be just roaring. The flames were billowing out of the end of it. And I fought it for a little while, but I wasn't melting to nothing. But then the power just shut off. Apparently the wires burned off in there or something. It just, no more hose. So I backed out of there, and I don't know what I was doing, standing around and heard somebody hollering. And Harry Clark and Alan Clark, I think, were up on the road up there by the store, and they were hollering at me, wanting to know what the hell I was doing. And I told them the mill was on fire. And well, of course, they could see that. They knew it was on fire, but they didn't know what I was doing. And at that point, I wasn't doing anything. So there was nothing that could be done. I mean, they called the fire department. I don't know if Dad called them, but we had the Tri-Village Fire Department at that point because they put it together after the first fire. But hell, it still would take them 10 minutes or so to get there, or even more. Boy, that mill got to huffing and puffing, and it was burning away, but it wasn't anywhere near as big. It was altogether different fire. It was just a fire. It wasn't a Holocaust like. So, I don't know. I went home and let the situation play out because I couldn't do anything. So, a couple days later, state cop pulls into the yard, wants to question me about the fire. I said, well, what the heck, you know. I can't remember his name right now, but he was a full-bore state cop, you know, all slicked up with a hat and everything. Took me out into his cruiser and threw me in there and began to grill me about that fire. And how old was I then? That was 63, I was 15. 15. And I didn't know what the heck I mean, I told him the truth about the whole thing, how it happened and all that. But the whole town thought I'd lit the fire, I guess, because I was the one down there and they spotted me. They thought I'd started that fire. I think probably, I mean, Flint Brothers claimed it was started by lightning, and I think probably it was. But they were working around there that morning, and there was a little bit of discussion about how that actually burned, because back in those days, the bobbin business was going to hell. Anyway, let's go with it was lightning, because I think it was. But gosh, that was kind of a scar on my tarnished reputation there for a while. I mean, I had my problems anyway, but I thought I was doing quite a stroke of business going on, trying to fight a fire, and all I got out of it was the suspicion that they thought I'd burned it. But it went on. I went up, I know during the fire, I heard later that Bob Macklin was just about fit to be tied because he just knew it was going to burn his building down. He just knew it. And he was giving stuff away to the firemen and anybody that was there helping. He was giving them stuff right off his shelves because he was so grateful. So I didn't get in on that because I was home and my dad made sure I stayed there. And the next day I meandered over there and I says, I heard you was giving stuff away yesterday. People fought the fire. He goes. I says, you know, I was the first one there. He says, I know you were. I said, do I get anything? Oh, he hated awful too, because he'd come back into his mind by that point. He wasn't about to give anything away. But he gave me something, soda or something. I says, I got something out of that deal anyway. But kind of interesting, small town boy. I got around, oh jeez. But eventually it got cleared up and everybody realized that I wasn't an arsonist yet. And they never rebuilt that mill because at that point the bobbin industry had taken a pretty big dip. They'd started introducing ceramic bobbins in the woolen industry. So they didn't need those wooden bobbins anymore with that varnish on them that always would heat up, and it wasn't a perfect situation, but those ceramic bobbins, boy, they did a beautiful job, and they went right away from the bobbins, and all the bobbin mills shut down. It's amazing how many of them burned. I was working down at Bowen Hunter in 1967, just before I went into service. And that caught fire. I wasn't there. It caught fire, I think it was on a day, on like Veterans Day or something. It was, I wasn't working there. I was deer hunting. And that caught fire and burned that flat in 1967. And that had a lot of people working there. But the bobbin, they never even thought of rebuilding that because the bobbin industry was gone. And there's not a lot to tell about that fire. I did go down there and help them. I remember I was coming back from a gun shop over in Northfield with Bill Gendron. We were cruising along. We came over the top of the heights, and you could see that fire glowing in the dark. It was dark. You could see it. And we both got to look, trying to figure out where in the heck that was. The closer we got, we realized it was down around East Corinth, and it was probably the mill. I begged him to let me off down to Arnold Berry's store down there at the corner. And he wouldn't go any further. He says, I hate fires. I'm not going one bit further. You've got to walk from here. So I did. I ran up there and joined up with the Tri-Village Fire Department. I think my Uncle Russell was there, and I don't know how many other people, but they were wedged in between the mill and a house that was right next to it that had asphalt siding on the side of the building. We were tucked in behind a piece of plywood or something there, trying to stay away from the heat, and all we did was put the hose over it and just spray it, because that thing was burning. Man, that thing was hot. And it melted all that asphalt off the side of that building right behind us because it was so hot. And it burned and burned. But the one notable thing there is there was some guy, I think he was a reporter, somebody got wind of it, and anyway, come in there to take pictures. And he was right in the road. There was an overpass. There was a big mill. All the wood products were done on the side. And then there was an overpass that went up into like a machine shop and maintenance shop and office building on the right-hand side going up through. So he was down there taking pictures of the fire. And we looked over and he was standing right underneath the power lines. And they were all afire up above his head. They were burning off. So I think it was Russell. I don't know. Somebody took that fire hose and give that guy a shot over there, which was kind of dangerous because of the wires and everything, but just give him one of these and swabbed him down with that fire hose a little bit. And the guy come up madder than a bastard and wanted to know, what the heck did you do that for? And just kind of pointed up like that. He looked up and said, oh, and he get the hell out of there. It was dangerous. There was a lot of stuff going on there. It was a huge mill in there. It was burning hot. It didn't burn any other real buildings. It just burned that building. And that's about it. I don't think anything else burned, but put a lot of guys out of work. But I think it was coming anyway because of the bobbin industry being the way it was. But bobbins were part of my life, big part of my life growing up. I've got quite a collection of Bowen Hunter bobbins and Dixie bobbins, and I got a sign from Bowen Hunter. If I had it down here, I'd show it to you, but I ain't going upstairs. Yeah, it's a big part of my life, early life, was the bobbin industry. My dad worked in it for 26 years, I think. And when Bowen Hunter burned down, he went over to the granite sheds over there and he worked in the finishing shop. So it made him a good job, and he actually got a little something out of it when he retired. So I've run out of mills to burn down, so I guess that's the end of the story today. And thank you for watching.